So when you get to the end of Mexico, you get to a science facility where Deadman, Guillermo del Toro, is. And he's like, hey, I'm Guillermo del Toro. I found a way to die. He explains how there's a thing called plate gates, which are like teleporters that get you from continent to continent. And then he dies. He's like, hey, I found my beach, so I can go to it. And then Norman Reedus has to sit there and cry at like a TV screen while Guillermo del Toro walks to his own death. So now I'm caught up. And it's after Higgs attacks and Lou dies, and Sam Norman Reedus, because he's a repatriate, he can keep respawning. Sam just can't stop killing himself because he's so sad that his baby died that he lets himself die and then comes back and then kills himself again. And so that's when Fragile shows up and she's like, hey, I have a new company. It's called Drawbridge. We're basically bridges again, but we're Drawbridge. So come onto my ship and do Drawbridge stuff. We're gonna reconnect Australia, because the plate gate thing that I maybe mentioned, I fucking forget. It's like a teleporter between continents, and so they go to Australia now, and the entirety of Death Stranding 2 after this takes place in Australia, because they gotta put Australia on the chiral network, which is internet. Because like, why? Listen, I've never been to Australia. I assume they have internet. So now it's time for me to do my second to last shot for the night. I refuse to have another drunk video where I don't do all the ocelot shots, so we're gonna do it. Huh! Okay, so after this, even though Lou is dead, Lou mysteriously turns back into the pod, and it's great because it means you can see BTs again in the video game. Okay, so that's when Norman Reedus' Death Stranding shows up on the Magellan, the DHV Magellan, which is the ship that Drawbridge uses. And there's some people on the ship. There's Tarman, who's the guy who navigates the ship. He's played by George Miller. And the reason he's called Tarman is because they navigate the ship through tar. The entire world has like tar underneath the dirt. And so he like dives underneath and goes through the tar with the ship. The ship looks like a Metal Gear Rex from Metal Gear Solid, by the way. And also Tarman's son was turned into a cat or something. There's also Dollman, who's played by Turkish director Fatih Akin. He's a doll whose body died and soul ended up in a puppet. Dollman's just there to kind of like hang out on your ass, the same way Mimir does in the God of War game. But it's cool because like he jingles around, he kind of like swings around at 60 frames per second. But when he talks to you and he moves himself, he's at like 16 frames per second. And then there's Charlie. Charlie is an AI who runs the DHV Magellan, the ship, and has the same voice as Die Hardman from the first game. And that's not at all a spoiler for who Charlie ends up being. Wink, wink. Okay, there's also one other person who shows up. He calls himself the president, and he is the president of a company called APAC, and also the president of the UCA, I think. I don't know. It's not explained where Die Hardman is at the moment, but he's the president of APAC, which is Automated Porter Assistance Company. It's basically the Porter version of AIs. You can't hear that on the mic, but there's like ambulance sirens going off in the distance outside my apartment. That's always happening because I live in a city. But like, shit, who's dying at 2:30 in the morning? Okay, so at that point, the president, he explains that reconnecting Australia, because it's a whole continent, it'll open up another plate gate. He theorizes that reconnecting Australia to the chiral network will open up more plate gates, so you can reconnect other continents on the rest of the world. On the way to Australia, Sam Norman Reedus starts to daydream, which can only mean one thing. And while walking to the plate gate to get to Australia and walking through it, Sam Norman Reedus thinks about Ocean's 11, a movie I've never seen. All right, I'll play ball here. So Ocean's 11 is about 11 people needing to steal something. There's just enough water in that to make it good. Okay, so eventually Hartman, who's played by Nicholas Winding Refn in the first game, he joins Drawbridge again, and so does a character named Rainey. And the way Rainey's powers work is that Rainey creates timefall, because rain, but like within like a 5-foot radius of her, she creates something called corefall, which does the opposite of timefall, where it like makes something young. So the thing to note about Death Stranding 2 is it's like Death Stranding 1, but there's a 2 at the end. There's these events happening called tarfall, where it's like the tar from below the earth is like moving upward, where Norman Reedus gets sucked into the tar, and he has to fight a character named Neil. Neil looks just like Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And that's important because I'll get back to that, but like, I don't know, it feels real important that Kojima is making his main characters like beat the shit out of each other. Think of it like the Mads Mikkelsen stuff from the first game, but it's this guy. It's this guy right here on my phone. It's Luca Marinelli. Sam Norman Reedus Death Stranding goes into a tarfall event where he ends up in Italy, I think. I'll say this, visually, it's one of the coolest things I have legitimately ever seen in a video game, because it's this entire area where there's fireworks, but also these like fireworks spinners happening, and you fight Neil, you just beat him up at the end, and that's it. So not long after the first time you fight Neil, there starts being this thing on the DHV Magellan where Heartman is there, like I mentioned, and during the 3 minutes where Heartman is dead, Deadman, played by Guillermo del Toro, takes over his body, because Deadman doesn't have a soul or a body or whatever the fuck. He's just Guillermo del Toro. During the 3 minutes where Deadman or Heartman, Jesus Christ, is on the beach looking for his family, Deadman takes over Heartman's body and talks to you and hangs out. And it's jarring. They should have fucking warned people. Of all the things Death Stranding 2 does, and it does a lot of shit, that's the thing where it's like, what are you fucking talking about, Kojima? You're gonna turn one of your director friends into another director friends. Just have them fuck at this point. Just like cut to a fuck scene. Ooh. What's nice about the Voldemort piss is it feels like it's water until it doesn't. And then it tastes like gin. Alright, so every time you fight Neil from Death Stranding 2, played by Luca Marinelli, you get these scenes of Neil in therapy with an actress who's played in real life by his wife. He's like Luca Marinelli's real life wife. I forget her name. I'm looking it up right now. Alyssa Jung. I've never been to therapy myself, because if I had been to therapy, I never would have made one of these drunk videos in the first place. So I don't know if it's true to life with how therapy sessions work. So Sam Norman Reedus Death Stranding gets those flashbacks to those therapy sessions the same way that he got the flashbacks to Mads Mikkelsen in the first game. So the thing to know about Neil is he's dressed up like Solid Snake from Metal Gear. And so it very specifically feels like Hideo Kojima is having his new character beat up his old, in like a I'm retiring the old character kind of way. So at the end of the first encounter with Neil, you meet a character named Tomorrow, played by Elle Fanning. By the way, the last chapter of Death Stranding 1, after you beat the game, the like post-game fuck around do missions chapter, is called Tomorrow is in Your Hands. This character played by Elle Fanning is named Tomorrow, and you spend the whole first game holding Lou. That should be a fucking indication about who Tomorrow is, but like, ooh, it's a secret for now. Anyway, while Norman Reedus is thinking about this, he's thinking about other shit. Because I want to pull a name from the hat. And so while he's thinking about who Tomorrow might be, he's also thinking about Alan Wake 2. Also, Doll Man, he's the doll who's like at different frame rates, who sits on your hip. He was like a researcher or something who died. His soul is in a puppet now. And that's it. That's everything about Doll Man. Let's move on with Death Stranding 2. So there's pizza delivery missions in both games. And in the first game, in Death Stranding 1, you gotta deliver pizza. And they're really difficult missions, but they're just there because Higgs, he's got like a safe house. And you won't get to explore it till you deliver enough pizza to him. In the second game, it's because the pizza guy, there's like a big scene where you fight the pizza guy, and then after that he teaches you karate but pizza. You get like a whole pizza costume in Death Stranding 2. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it in this video yet, but Death Stranding 2 is the best game of 2025. You're watching this and thought, well, I played Expedition 33, I played Hades 2, I played Ghost of Yotai, I played Borderlands 4, I played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I played Donkey Kong Bonanza, I played Hollow Knight Silksong, I played all these good games that came out in 2025. I'm sorry, but you're wrong, because the best game was Death Stranding 2, which is not a thing I would have said about Death Stranding 1 in 2019. The best game of 2019 was Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium is about a game where you play as a detective who puts on different clothes to solve a murder, and then he solves it, but then there's more game after that. Eventually, throughout the course of the game, you eventually reconnect Australia to the chiral network, like the whole continent of Australia. And right before you're about to do that, you go to you're like exploring, and there's a bunch of places to connect, like in the mountains and stuff. And Sam Norman Reedus is like daydreaming. And while he daydreams, what does he talk about? What does he talk about? Let's find out. He thinks about the Cormac McCarthy novel Blood Meridian. Okay, so Blood Meridian is a 1985 novel by Cormac McCarthy about westward expansion. Blood Meridian is about a kid from America who joins a group of like people exploring Mexico and the West, led by a guy named Glanton, and they do that and then like murder a bunch of people in really gruesome ways. And there's a guy named the Judge who like kills them all throughout the book. So eventually you reconnect all of Australia, and you have one big final fight with Neil. You fight Neil 3 times throughout the game. Once is in this really big fireworks scene. It's like the coolest scene I've ever seen in a video game. The second is underwater, and the third is in like a train crash through a building that's like frozen. And eventually you beat him up because he's just Solid Snake, and so Kojima's sick of his old character, so you beat the shit out of him. And he gives you like a thumb drive with his entire past. And you find out that Neil was a smuggler. His therapist was, her name was Lucy. She was Norman Reedus' wife who died before even the first game. You find out through the USB drive that Sam's daughter didn't die. She was secretly taken by Bridges to be the very first BB. And so Neil, his role in all this was he was smuggling moms from across the border who were already in a coma to be part of the BB project. I'm forgetting so much stuff that happened before that. There's a part where you go into a facility, like an abandoned facility in the desert, and Higgs shows up. It's the scene from the fucking trailer from like 3 years before the game came out, where he's just like, you still don't know what's going on, do ya? And then the samurai shows up, and it's just the fight from Metal Gear Solid 4 again, except instead of Raiden, it's Higgs. So Neil and Sam's wife Lucy were lifelong friends because there was like a war in Italy where all the fireworks happened, which was the visual from when you first meet Neil in Death Stranding 2. And they were like lifelong friends, and so that's why she was like, hey, Bridges wants my baby. Smuggle things to stop them, Neil. So like after that, Lucy is like, Neil, we gotta get my baby out. but they all get shot by bridges. They die. BB00. Oh, I forgot to mention it. Dead Man, he mentions all the way back in chapter 1 that BB-28, Lou, wasn't in the system on purpose. Like, BB-28 was there on accident, took the place of a different BB. I wrote that down. Wait, hang on. I'm gonna look up my notes. Point is, all of that happens, and then you reconnect Australia. There's a few more places you gotta pin together before Australia. And so while that's happening, Norman Reedus lets his mind wander. While his mind is wandering, he thinks about Neon Genesis Evangelion. All right, so Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of my favorite shows ever, but like, I'll be fucked if I could recap it for you. So Shinji has to fight the angels, but he hates his dad, but his dad hates him. He wants to fuck a friend of his who's also a clone of his mom, and then instrumentality happens. That's Evangelion. We're on a roll here. So you finish connecting Australia, and then the president betrays everybody, which, like, Jesus Christ, in 2025, is that a fucking sentence to say? So he explains that he is the head, because he's the head of APAC. There was a void out in the map of Death Stranding 1, which is when someone dies and explodes. And something like 4,000 people died, including a shitload of people you helped in Death Stranding 1. And so the president is the manifestation of those 4,000 dead people. And his whole thing is that if everyone is secluded away in their beach, they'll be safe from the effects of the Death Stranding. The expanded chiral network into Australia will force everyone back into their beach. The president was the one who brought Higgs back to terrorize Australia with his mechs, with the ghost mechs, as like a way to like force people into wanting to go back into their beaches. And so basically the president's whole plan is that if everyone goes back into their beaches and they're secluded in their beaches, the effects of the Death Stranding are okay and everyone's fine. And then that's when the craziest moment in the entire game happens. There's a part in Death Stranding 2 that I got to when I was kind of tired. And I got home after 2 days of not being in this apartment, and I thought, I'm gonna play some Death Stranding. That was a bad fucking idea, because the scene I'm about to describe happens. So Charlie, the person who's in charge of the DHV Magellan and sounds like Die Hard Man. Hey, spoiler alert, that is Die Hard Man. And the way he explains that is,
see the sunset, the day is ending. Let that yawn now. There's no pretending. I will hold you and protect you. So let love warm you till the morning. Good God.
but that's where Die Hard Man reveals that he has been in charge of the DHV Magellan, and he stops the president because Die Hard Man, DHV Magellan stands for Die Hard Man Vessel.
You can't possibly be serious.
They knew the president was trying to do that, and so they reprogrammed the Cupid that Sam was using the whole game to stop the president somehow, and it does. After that, you've got an option, because you turn off the president's whole thing. You can turn it back on whenever you want to make the game more difficult, to like get trophies and stuff. Okay, by the way, there's a scene before that where you almost get to reconnect Australia. You get almost there, but then Higgs shows up, and Higgs is like, I'm gonna torture Sam to death. And he keeps doing this thing where he tortures Sam and kills Sam, but then Sam dies and comes back. and then Higgs tortures him again and kills him and brings him back. And it happens a bunch of times until Elle Fanning shows up and like yeets herself through the air and beats the shit out of Troy Baker. Troy Baker has a guitar, by the way. His guitar is his weapon. It's like a railgun guitar. It's exactly how it felt playing Guitar Hero and being good at it, which is cool. By the way, Die Hard Man bankrolled drawbridge. So after that all gets explained, Higgs shows up and kidnaps Tomorrow, and it goes, hey, dipshit, Sam Bridges, Norman Reedus, Tomorrow is your actual daughter. I'm going to Amelie's Beach from the first game. Eat my ass. I'm leaving. And so he leaves, and then they go, fuck, that's bad. We need to follow them. And so they take the DH from Magellan and connect it to the top of a big BT. It's like a Metal Gear head, but like on a person's body, and it's swinging fists around. And they go into the final act of this game, where it's in Amelie's Beach from the first game, and you have to fight a bunch of ghost mechs while the big BT is like Pacific Rim fighting a bunch of shit. While Sam Death Stranding is doing all that, he daydreams. What does he daydream about? Let's find out. Okay, so he daydreams specifically about Rochester-based indie rock band Joywave. And then a few other bands. Listen, in the Harry Potter video, I brought up a bunch of bands that I wanted to see. In the time since shooting the Harry Potter video, I have gone to a Joywave concert. I've gone to a Portugal the Man concert. I've also seen Father John Misty. It was excellent. But I specifically wrote Joywave down on that. Joywave is a Rochester-based indie rock band. They're my absolute favorite band. I have almost all their albums on vinyl. If I had to rank their albums, it would be this ranking right here. Hey, it'd be this ranking that I'm putting right next to me of their albums. That's it. Hey, that's it. We're going into the final act of Death Stranding 2 now. So somewhere in the midst of going to Amelie's Beach, Sam and Fragile, played by Léa Seydoux, decide they love each other, and they do a kiss. And it's a really good kiss because like their noses fold. There's a boss fight where you have to fight the Red Samurai, and okay, the Red Samurai is sometimes dead man and sometimes a bad guy. The Red Samurai feels like an afterthought. The Red Samurai feels like Kojima being like, I don't know, Gray Fox was in Metal Gear, so fuck it. So that's what that was. Eventually, you make it to the final boss fight with Higgs. Higgs has a guitar in this game, and it's also a railgun. He splits it in half, he like rips it in half, gives one of them to Sam, and so you have this like fist fight / railgun fight with a guitar where you beat up Higgs, and there's a part where they reference Metal Gear Solid 1, like Higgs is like, kept you waiting, huh? And Sam Norman Reedus, Death Stranding, is like, it's not over yet.
Kept you waiting, huh? You and me. It ain't over yet.
And you beat the shit out of Troy Baker. I forgot to mention it at this point, but he's kidnapped Tomorrow, and because Tomorrow is Sam Reedus' biological daughter, because the Lou that you talk about, that Neil and Lucy try and escape with, that gets turned into the first BB, that is Sam's biological daughter. And Higgs knows that, so he's got her kidnapped, and he's using her to bring about the last stranding. Because of your connection to Amelie, it's not explained how that works. So at the end of the game, when you beat up Troy Baker, he's got Elle Fanning like tied up to be the last stranding, because she's an extinction entity now. She's Norman Reedus' biological daughter, which means she has a connection to Lindsay Wagner from the first game. Hey, it's running all off on vibes at this point. Elle Fanning shows up as a giant baby, like a giant baby, and crushes Higgs. Higgs is dead for good now. You've saved the day, and you go back to the real world, the non-dead, non-beach world at the end of Death Stranding 2. And that's where you find out that Fragile was dead the entire game. So at the beginning of the game, when Fragile was defending Norman Reedus' house against Higgs, She actually got shot and died. Her body stayed alive long enough to make sure that Lou was safe. And she transported Lou, and she ended up transporting Lou to Neil, and Neil put her in a cocoon, and that cocoon aged her into Elle Fanning. And when she's Elle Fanning, that's where you meet her in the first Neil section of the game. So it's like time travel or something. And so because all of that happened and she found out who Tomorrow Elle Fanning was, she's happy with dying, but she was technically dead the entire game. Norman Reedus and Elle Fanning find out that they're biologically related. That's when they have a moment where they're like, wow, we're so happy. I'm Norman Reedus and I've got a kid now. And then the game ends and it flash forwards to like years later. Elle Fanning is older and now she's a porter and she's delivering stuff. And that's the end of Death Stranding 2. And I guess in that same way, that's the end of the drunk videos. I've been doing these now on and off for 5 years. Being able to say it's done it's kind of an emotional moment. I don't know how to end it. I don't know what there is to say except I'm really drunk. I want to go to bed. The world is bad and feels like it's getting worse every day. And for all the issues you can throw at Hideo Kojima's work, one of the things he's always stressed is that people should be connected more and trust in each other more. So, I don't know, try that. And if that fails, I don't know, make some Voldemort piss and watch the end of the world happen. I don't know. I'm not making another one of these. This is the last one. I don't know when this video is going to come out, but this is it. We're done. We're done here. Good night and good luck. Fuck.